Just let me see.
Okay, I'm opening the book so long.
Yeah.
See gou. Talk, no?
Yeah, there was a question. Um, I know it was to determine the diameter, the new diameter, if the torque uh, uh, um was the max torque was 25% greater.
Yeah, this, yeah. It looks like this. Hollow shop. This here.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, what you must do just, but that should be alright, man. But it's 10.3 or what? We did something like this last week, isn't it?
Yeah, we did something similar to what was in
Yeah.
the
So
what
now
was
I
in the
think, yeah, you see the thing is here, here you must use that other formula now. It's one for rigidity, man. This one here. But I mean, it's also one mark, man. You know what I'm
yeah
trying to say to you? So it's not actually, it can't be a crazy quick. But then again, this is also four marks. So this is also, yeah,
yeah
anyway. But just let me know. So put on the group and I can maybe just work it out and I can just, and you can obviously just see, you know what I mean?
yeah
Yeah, because
I'll do that.
obviously,
Yeah.
yeah, we want to move on to other stuff. Because I want to make sure I just cover enough content at least. All I can tell you, N5 is alright compared to N6. N6, for the time I have, I'm not even covering the total content. So it's just a lot of modules.
Yeah, no, I did strings
Hmm.
on varsity, but I dropped out.
Okay.
So I'm familiar with a lot of the stuff, but obviously I
Okay.
forgot about some of the stuff. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
but we'll get there, man.
Yeah. I mean, today is our last session anyway, so just want to make sure we cover enough.
Yeah.
Get you guys at least. I chose some problems, obviously, which I felt which was the most relevant. But yeah, let's just quickly see. Let's see who else is going to join us. Right, Jason, I don't know where the other colleagues is. I'm gonna give it 5 minutes and then I think we can begin.
Sorry, I just stepped out of the room for a bit.
Yeah, it's all
Also,
right.
also just got home.
Okay. Quasi, welcome back. Mr. Mkra.
Yes, I'm in. I was just taking my book.
Oh, good. Otherwise, how are you, Chief?
I'm good. I'm good. No,
Yeah. I'm all right, man. Did you submit that revision I said you must do?
not yet.
Yeah, I should have done it before the session, man. Anyway. But I'm assuming you might know this thing, so yeah. Hey, Dr. Ntuli.
Yes, sir. How are you? Dr. Antul.
Huh? I'm fine.
How are you?
I'm fine. Okay, can we begin? I know what's happening with Alta.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great.
Struggling with connection. Eh?
Okay, so yeah, so guys, I'm sure you've seen. I've sent you some revision questions for in preparation for this session. So I'll tell you exactly what is required before we proceed here. Let me just share, and then I'll begin immediately with our content. So if you see my PDF, you'll notice 4 questions, but I mean 2 of particular sections. So for instance, one is finding shear force and bending moments. Are you guys familiar with that concept?
Yes, sir.
100%, because you require this concept in this next chapter, right? There's one example, there's another one, right? In fact, the shear force part will become more prevalent in the N6 chapter. But I'm sure if you're familiar with this is why. I just put it up here so that you have to brush up essentially. The next one is centroids, right? Finding the center of a laminar shape. Are you familiar with this as well?
No.
Not.
Yes,
Even this one.
We did it in engineering science and so
It's there. Dr. Ntuli, did you do that?
I don't remember it in N4.
Yeah.
I don't.
So it's essentially it's talking to find the center of a particular shape here. So you end up with an X and a Y coordinate. So that is why I was deliberately doing that so we can discuss, but it's fine. What you must just do is remind me to post the answers of these questions, and then yeah, then you can obviously have a look and engage with them and let me know. But today will be our last session, unfortunately. And I believe you guys are writing next week, Wednesday. So we have to continue with the order of the day. So let me open up the order of the day with today's agenda. I'm not sure if I posted these questions or not, but here they are. Okay. So what I wanted to cover, colleagues, was the end of module 7, which was the flange couplings. I'm not sure if you guys have touched on this. Because these questions do come up And yeah, so this is it's after the Shafting series in parallel. So yeah, I don't know if you're gonna have time to cover this one, but I'll skip it and start with module 5. But if there's time or you want me to cover this, I can cover it. This is just from another textbook, Trotsky, articulating the same thing. And I was even posting a GCC question over here, where they basically asked exactly the same thing. So we did this last year. But the idea is typically finding the number of bolts required on this particular coupling over here, a flange coupling, or rather. But I mean, I don't know if you guys would like me to cover it, I can cover it. But I'd like to start on bending. Is that okay? Is it okay, colleagues? Is there any concerns, disputes, questions before we move on? You're allowed to talk.
Right now, we're not in a position.
Okay. Dr. Ntu, you're saying you're fine? Quasi? Mr. Brand?
Yes.
Jason?
We can continue.
Okay. So, so the two concepts, right, which I mentioned to you, let me share my board now. And then, yeah, okay, let me just share the board. The one concept is finding bending moments of beams, and the other concept is finding the centroid, right? And we're gonna be needing both those concepts for this chapter. So just a quick what's nice after the toy textbook, it gives you some examples if you're rusty on finding the centroid. And then it gives you some examples of the bending, but it's more integrated. But anyway, so just to go straight into the matter of the day, we looked at torque last time, and now we're looking at bending, right, or flexure as they call it. It's one of the other loading conditions which I've mentioned to you, and you can notice it has a similar flavor to the torsion formula. It's a 3-point formula with 2 ratios per formula, where we have the moment, something called I, sigma y equals E and R, right? And we can use any of the following combinations basically to calculate whatever we need. However, to make things quite simple for you, we typically don't even concern yourself with this. And this is the only 2 parts you need to know. Okay, so what is what here? M is a bending moment, right? A moment is, we're all familiar with the concept of a moment, right? It's essentially a force times the distance, but it's essentially, if you think of a seesaw with 2 people sitting on, it will tend to bend the beam, in fact, right? Our second parameter below that is I, which is the second moment of area, right? Which is basically the same as your polar second moment of area. But in this case, it is for bending. So I is a property which tells you the resistance to bending. So the higher second moment of area you have, right? The more it will resist bending. Whereas the less, it will bend much quicker. We have equal that to sigma, which will be stress, as you know, in megapascals or pascals, and y would be the distance from the neutral axis. Now, that neutral axis, what you were talking about, is basically that centroid, right? And that is why we're going to need to find this particular centroid for these equations. We have E and R, which is the elastic modulus and radius of curvature, but that is not of particular importance. What I do want to unpack at this particular point is your moment of area. What is the concept about? Let me quickly go find it. Let me pull up something here. Does anyone have a ruler next to them at this current point? Does anyone have a ruler? Mr. Brandt, Dr. Ntuli, Jason, yes, I see your hand up.
Yeah, got one.
Okay. So what I want you to do, right, is I just want to let me find an image rather to articulate this. Give me a quick second. Okay. Yeah. Hope everyone has a ruler. You could possibly, you could actually conduct this. Okay. I'll paste it down, and you'll see what I mean. So what I want you to do is basically to bend your ruler in two different axes, if I could say, right? So we articulating the concept of what I is. So bend your ruler, make your ruler flat as you know it, how you normally draw a line. Try to bend it, right?
Hmm.
You doing it?
Yeah.
Sure, right? It bends fairly easy, am I correct?
Yes.
You agree? Now
Yes.
rotate your ruler to this position over here. Like it's straight up and then bend it going this way. What do you find?
Doesn't budge.
Yeah, it doesn't budge. It's harder to bend, right?
I don't want.
Yeah, exactly. So what I'm trying to articulate is that the first thing is that for shapes, right, we have a property called resistance to bending. However, depending on which axis you bend, right, whether it be the X or Y, I don't know if my thing is drawing now. Yeah, X or Y, your second moment would be different. The second moment I, this is what I'm talking about. So you might find out that it bending this way will be a lot harder than bending this way. You might ask yourself, have you ever heard of an I-beam before? You know I-beam? You've seen it all over, right? You guys familiar with the I-beam?
Yes, sir.
Yes. You might wonder why the I-beam is always positioned upright like that. And there's reasons why when it comes to bending and shear stresses. But again, your eye is also shape dependent and it depends on the shape. Various shapes have different second moment of areas. Yeah, they have their own formula. I'll just show you an example. I don't want to talk too much on these things. So like this, you can see for your rectangle shape, it's BD cubed over 12. You probably have to remember this. And then for that's on the x-axis, assuming you're bending it that way. On the y, it'll be a lot different. Well, it's the same dB cubed 12, if you know what I mean. It's just swapped around. In that case, yeah, then you have a circle, which is pi d464. You have a triangle and you have a shape. So this is I, right? So that can change depending on the shape of the material. In fact, you're going to see when we look at the steel tables, there's also the same property for different bearing sections, and we'll get there. The next thing is
Are you writing?
No, I'm not writing. I'm just talking.
Okay.
The next thing is you're talking about something called the stress. So the stress we're talking about there is yeah, so they mentioned something of tensile and compressive, right? And now to bring it to you, what do they mean by this? Okay, so I'll just copy the relevant section in the book and paste it for you. Okay, and what I mean by this is that if you could imagine a beam being perfectly horizontal, we apply a load over here, and you'll notice that it bends. What you find in the beam is on this side of the beam, if you can think about it, it's actually being compressed. I am writing now. You see there? So you can take your ruler as well and you can raise it up, bend it up. You'll notice that this is
Not
being
sure.
compressed. Sorry?
I can't see. It's still sitting on the first
Okay.
slide
Okay.
you showed.
Okay. So you can have your ruler on hand and you can bend him upwards. And you notice the top part of the ruler. I don't know if you guys can see it. This over here. That section of the ruler, right? It's being compressed.
Yes.
Yep. Whereas the bottom section is in tension.
Okay.
Are you able to see that? So what I'm saying is that over here, you notice that it's extending, arguably, and then the top part is being compressed. And what they're saying, basically, here, and the neutral axis is basically where the center is located. You'll notice across the beam, this is on the side view, that on the top side, you're going to have, depending on the beams, obviously bent. In a case like a loading condition like this, where it's going down, on top it's going to be compressive, which is supposed to be on the other side, but anyway, and the bottom will be tensile, which is over here. Okay. In fact, what is more interesting is that there at the neutral axis, which is that over there, there's no stress over there. Why is this of importance to us as engineers or technicians? Typically, that is where you want to join the beam. So that when you put your joining in, your bolts, etc., if you can, there will be no stress, additional stress within the bolt itself. It's also with beams where you have your bending moment and you find your point of contact of flexure. It's a similar concept with the bending moment 0. You essentially want to put a joint in there so that there's no additional stress within the beam. So yeah, so that is explaining just those two concepts. And then I want to getting us solving. And then, yeah, we will, as we move along, we will figure out the rest, I believe. So that's just a quick overview. And let's quickly commence with our first example. This is example 5.7 in your toy textbook. Okay, here we are. The example reads as follows. For a cantilever beam, I'm sure you're aware what a cantilever is. The maximum bending stress in the beam may not be more than 200 megapascal in either tension or compression. Determine the following. Okay. The lightest suitable I section to cope with the loads, the actual stress about the beam, and draw the stress distribution in the beam material and where the maximum bending moment occurs. Okay, great. So this particular question is not touching on the concepts which I mentioned, in particular the centroid ones and the other one, but this is going to actually bring you into the steel tables. And yeah, so let's quickly find so the first thing we're going to do is the following. Let me just quickly open my textbook and see how they tackle this one. I want to see if they're using a particular way doing it. Yeah, this is what I thought. Okay. So what I need to mention next is the following way, a following modification rather of a way the way they manipulate this formula to design beams. But anyway, let me quickly show you. So you have your moment divided by I equals stress divided by your neutral axis, distance of neutral axis. What we do now, there's a property called your section modulus, right, which is Z. So it's something they've established, 1 over Y. Oh, sorry, it's not 1 over Y, sorry. It's I over Y, right? So this is called your section modulus. So all it is, I times my I over here. And then you have M equals stress I over Y, I over Y, that will be Z. And that will be section modulus is. You notice it's important because in your steel tables, right? It will be there. It's actually used for the beam design. In fact, what the section modulus is looking at, if you look at the two parameters of I and Y, it is basically the cross-sectional shape, right? And that's important in designing the beam. And also it's a direct measure of relative strength of the beam. Basically, a beam with a stronger section modulus, then another one means it can support a greater load. So it is basically a one-up of I. So instead of using I, we're going to use this particular formula, M equals stress times Z. So with B, we are actually using this formula, M equals stress Z. You can use stress equals I over Y, but it's just easier once you see the table. So first thing is we have the stress. That's telling you the material already, S355 or S235, the material spec. And we need to work at the loading condition. And then from that, we can actually compute it. So can you guys find a bending moment for me for this particular beam? So we can find Z. I can show you the steel table. Okay, so I'm going to find this. Let's quickly work out that moment. I do want to make you aware that the steel table or steel table they're referring to is at the back of the textbook. Let's see. Okay.
So can I ask a question?
Yes, yes.
In that bending moment example, all the forces are acting down, the 4,
Yes.
the 10, the 2. But if we had an example, and just for a scenario, that something was acting up, so that would be
Yes.
then negative. Would that be negative when you calculate the maximum?
Yeah. So,
In the opposite
like
direction, clockwise and anti-clockwise.
yeah, so that's what it's about. Well, one will be clockwise and one will be anti-clockwise. You must remember the first condition of equilibrium is talking about forces up and forces down. No, that's your first condition of equilibrium. You know this, right? The forces up must balance the forces down. And the second condition of equilibrium is basically your anti-clockwise moments and your clockwise moments and your anti-clockwise moments, and that must balance, if that makes sense. So yeah, if you're taking moments about the wall, which obviously in this case it's obvious, this is where you're going to take it. Then if one is going up, so let's say for argument's sake, in this current case, this 4 kilonewtons is producing a clockwise moment, right, to the wall. If you take your moments here, is that correct?
Correct.
Yep. And then if the 4 kilonewtons was facing upwards like this, you know what I mean? Just imagine the arrow was that way. I think you know what I mean.
Yes.
Yeah. Then you produce a anti-clockwise. So basically, yeah. What's happening here? I'm assuming you guys can find the moments. I'm waiting on that. When they're saying something is going a moment, no? So they, you're taking the perpendicular. What this basically means that the beam is bending this way. That's what that means. You know what I mean? That's what this moment story means. So if your force is now on the other way, assuming it's this way, obviously it has to be over here, makes the beam on a bend that way. Yeah. It's pushing it up that way. So that's the idea of when it comes to moments and so on. I don't know if that makes any clarity.
So for a cantilever, your maximum is always on that wall side or the support side.
Yes. So it's quite simple to visualize, right? The way you want to always view this, you take a ruler, you keep it on one end, right? That's your fixed point. And if you bend the ruler on the ends, you'll notice that the maximum deflection is actually at the wall. So I can show you actually a graph how the stuff looks like. So that's where it's coming from. So the maximum bending moment is actually there, which incurs in the maximum deflection. So it's always at the wall, yes. Whereas a simply supported beam, it's not like that. I think you guys can all understand that it's actually in the middle, right? But it depends, man. There's factors.
And then the ends will always be 0, sir.
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing happening there. Because it's supported there. So, but the thing is, once you do deflection, it becomes a bit more clearer. I can show you.
I know we're running out of time. Thank you, sir. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So let's just quickly get that moment. It's fairly simple. If you know your moments. Want to make sure I cover everything. So it's always at the fixed end for cantilever, so that's easy. I don't think you get a lot of variations with your beams. So we take 2 times 4. We're assuming we're going at the wall, by the way. So we're going to say, we can call this point A, whatever you want to call it. You're taking moments about A, sum of moments about A equals 0. So 2 times 4. And I believe that is a clockwise moment. So that stays positive, right? That's fine. We do our 4 as well. I'm just doing the 4 first. That's plus 4 times 2. It's really easy. 4 times the perpendicular distance. For this one, we're going to say 10 times 2, which gives us the UDL. The amount of force, but then obviously we know UDL acts at the center of that distance. So if that's the case, it'll act here, right? Assuming you know your basics, it's 3 meters away from the wall. So we times that by 3. So what I actually wanted to do was say, anyway, just times 3. Ignore this setup I did here. So it's 10 times 2 times 3. And if you tally all of this up, that's an 8 and an 8. And what is it? A 6, a 60. So that's 16 plus, okay, that should be 76, right? Kilonewton meter. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Very important concept. You must not take a bending moments. Sometimes I give it to you, sometimes I don't. But I do want to show you that there are some formulas you can use, which is makes your life a bit easy when it comes to these things. It's well worth your time getting used to it. Okay, so once we have a maximum bending moment, like I said to you, right, we know the loading condition, right? We're carrying a 76 kilonewton meter load on this beam, right? This beam could be viewed in many ways. This could have been I'm thinking a tree is a cantilever if you rotate that beam around, a light pole, a balcony. There's so many ideas of what a cantilever actually is in reality. So let's say we've established that's Alton, his side chick probably, and let's say it's the weight of the table, whatever, on this balcony of some sort. And then, or this could have been also that thing you jump on at the pool. I'm just thinking now. But anyway, so we know the loading condition, but now we need to say, okay, right, we know the loading condition, we know the material, it's 200 megapascals, and we need to find Z. So that is the shape of the beam, like what beam are we going to use? So what do we do now is the following. So we must solve for Z. So that's M equals stress over Z. And then we divide. Okay, so can I quickly get this value over here? So you guys can quickly solve Z for me. Should be easy. 76 kilonewton divided by 200. Is it positive 6, right? Okay. What is my Z value? Now what I'm showing here is a real life type setting of how to design beams. The basic part of it anyway. There are some crazy stuff. But yeah, anyway.
So that's 380 times 10 to the minus 6.
Okay, 380 times 10 to negative 6. I think you always want to keep it. In fact, this unit is meters 3, by the way. You always want to keep it negative 6, and you understand why. Colleagues, are we all on the same page before I move on?
The 200 there, the stress is negative 6.
No, it's positive 6, man. Just, I think the way I wrote it. You got it?
Yeah, so it's 8.
Okay, perfect. So this is some elementary or yet advanced beam design. And you always want to keep the thing to negative 6. So now the thing is, once we have this, right, we have to go to the supplier now, okay? And in fact, if you read the question, it says the lightest suitable I section to cope with the loads, right? There are some other criteria to select this beam, but in this case, they're giving us the lightest. So let's quickly, I'll pull up a table and this is the back of your book. And I want you guys, right, to do the same. Go to the end of your book, pull up table 1. I believe this is given to you in your final exam, and the table looks like this. You'll notice there are various tables for various sections. Now, I'm not sure why they don't tell you exactly what this is, but this is an I-beam, right? Parallel flange. You get taper flange, you get a few different variants. So here we are. So what you've done now, you've found a Z. So what you do is bending by the x-axis. So what you have to actually do is look here, right? That's your ZE over here. You get the ZE column here, just over here. And you need to decide now which beam, right, is suitable. What's the value we got? 30?
380.
380, right? Okay, so I'm going to ask Dr. Ntuli to see if he's here and Kwazi. We got 380, am I correct? That's what you said, right?
Yes.
So if I look at these beams over here, do you think the 203 by 133 by 25 is suitable for our selection?
No,
Yes.
still small.
Sorry, say again?
Isn't it too small? You don't have 380 there's Z.
Exactly, it's too small, right? So what we do, we look at this table and we check only on the ZE column, right? The each do mean something, by the way. So this is too small, definitely. Let's quickly, I'm looking for my pen here. Let me go to red instead. Yeah, okay. So this, no. Okay. We had 380. So I think this is also too small, right? Too small, too small, too small. Am I right?
Yes.
But when I come here, I see 433. That's good, right?
It's more close by.
Yeah, okay. What else is there? What else can we look at? 305 by 102. That's a better one, right? That's over here as well. You agree?
286.
Yeah. Oh, it's a 380. What is it? Oh, wrong. My bad. I thought it was 380. Okay. Not that. That's fine. Not this, right?
This 416.
416, yes, right? Okay. Do we all get the idea what's going on here? Colleagues, are we all happy? Are we all there?
Yes, sir. So you're using ZE, so as long as it was higher than 380, that's what you now marked.
That is correct. Does it make sense? Because if it's not 380, it won't be able to resist that stress or bending. I don't know if it makes any sense to you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Because ZE incorporates both this value over here, and this distance over here. This IX. That too over here. So then again, if we move forward, we can use 563. Am I correct? Are we happy with this? We can use this as well. Am I right? Can we use this as well?
And they're not too big. And they're too big.
Okay, let's talk about that as engineers and technicians. I'll stop just there. So as long as the value is greater than what? 380, we can select it. Is that correct?
No.
Yes.
Am I correct? Yes, Mr. Brandt, Dr. Ntuli?
Yes.
Yes. So now, remember they did say they want the lightest beam. Is it not so?
Yes.
So
Yes.
if you're looking at these over here, right? That's 54 kilogram per meter, right? Obviously, it can be really fancy and work out times 4 because the beam is 4. Obviously, the bigger the number here, this one is what? 46. This one is 32. From what I understand here, as it goes down, can you see the kilogram per meter increases?
Yes,
Over
yes.
here? Yeah. So obviously we want to choose the one furthest up from there. And I believe this one, which one was it? So I think we are stuck between this one over here. Colleagues, I want you to do this with me. We happy with this one over here, right? That one? Yes?
But it's still big. We've got 32.8, which is lesser than 37.
Hey, this guy's a full engineer. Full engineer. He's changed. Yeah. That too, right? Can you see there? No, that too, man.
32.8.
Yeah. Where is it on now?
One below.
One below. There we go. And remember the question was the lightest. So therefore, we must choose the lightest between the two. Is that clear to everyone? Tyson,
Yes.
are you winning? Dr. Tool is on fire here. He doesn't need any assistance. I don't know why he's here today.
I'm struggling.
You're always struggling, but you're winning. So I'll be clear, colleagues, what beam you're choosing here. The brand quasi.
Yes.
Jason. Okay. So in reality, it doesn't always work like this. We want to choose the lightest, but we also have to look what is available. You know what I mean? What's max steel, for instance, having on stock? You know, what do they have on stock? If that makes sense to everyone. Because we can choose a certain beam, but then what if they don't have it? You know what I mean? So the criteria must then change. But as long as we know that the Z is greater than what we have, we're going to be fine. Is that fine with everyone? Just bringing the logic in.
Yes.
Okay, so that's fine. So while I'm here, so we know we're going to choose the 305 by 102 by 33 because that is a lot smaller per meter than that. Obviously, we don't know the prices of these, which is something on the next level where you actually look at the two prices and decide which one is better. But anyway, just looking at this, so I just want to quickly talk to you what this is. These over here, all of these over here are just the dimensions of the beam. HB, TW, TF, that's the thickness of the web, which is in the middle, thickness of the flange, height of the web. Yeah, H is the total height from there to there. A is the area, which you're probably going to need in the next section. So the actual area of the beam. Then we have IX, which is the second one of area bending that way. And on which you have your ZE on the x-axis, you've got a ZPR, your IX, which should be your this. I'm not sure exactly what this one is for. I'll just follow up again. Should be something that I know, but anyway. And then you have exactly the same properties on your y-axis, which is your IY, your ZE, your ZPL, and your IY. That should be the neutral axis thing, but anyway. So yeah. Anyway, so those are the properties on this table. So knowing how to read the table is very important. Anyway, so I'll just remove this again. And we can go back to our question. Based on that, we found that we're going to choose an I section of, what is that value again? The beam, the 305 by 102. About, Dr. Tuli, what is it? By what? What's the kilogram?
33.
33. Yeah, okay. You selected your first beam. Well done. And then the next question, it asks now the actual stress brought about in the beam. So you basically revert back to this formula, right? Because now we've chosen our beam. And now if you put in, oh, by the way, we still need the ZE property of this beam. And what is the ZE property of this beam again? The section modulus?
Yes, 416.
Yeah,
The one that you selected.
Yeah. Okay, you know, times 10 to the -6. So then we go back to this formula and I want the actual stress. So we know the moment is 76 kilonewton. We know the stress is, we don't know the stress we're working out. And we know ZE is 416. Okay. Which is -6, right? And then we compute the stress quickly. Can I just get the stress of the beam?
So there's 182.
182. So my
Yeah,
question there, Mr. Brandt, is that below our requirement? Our requirement is 200, right?
Correct.
Exactly. Right. So that means we're safe. Perfect. So once that is done, the next question is the following. And they might ask us, it says, draw the stress distribution diagram in the beam at the point where the maximum bending moment occurs, right? That's quite simple. I want to show you the actual sketch in the textbook. I don't agree with the way they've done it, but okay. Let's just quickly get the stress for you. Show you here now. Over here. Looks like this. So this is the beam, the I-beam, right? And you basically draw it like this, but what I would have drawn it as was like this. You normally want to keep that, this is the positive side, and you want to keep this. Oh, no. Yes, no, they're correct. But still, no, on top it's being, what's happening on the top of the beam? It's being compressed, right? But no, it's a cantilever. No, it's correct. So, very, very important. I'm out of drawing like this anyway. So, if you notice on this type, the distribution over here, right? On top over here, we have a 182.69 MPa tensile. Make sure you show it's tensile, and at the bottom we have compressive of 182, same magnitude. And in the center you have a stress of 0. That is what I want to see. Now, how do we know that the top is tensile and the bottom is compressive? Can anyone tell me?
Which is bending down.
Exactly, right? So it's bending down. This part is being compressed, and the top part is being, that's in tension. Am I correct? Simply supported beam will work differently. Just making you aware. We're all on the same page. Dr. Ntuli, getting too old for this.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit lost. So, like, how to determine that it's bending towards?
So remember, if you have a cantilever standing straight up like this, right? Obviously straight up. And if you're putting loads down here, what happens to this beam? It goes down like this. It's not so.
Oh, it's like something that is suspended, then you stand on it.
Yes, okay. Yes. So on top will be in tension, the bottom will be in compression, right? Are we happy with that?
Yeah.
So if I have simply supported beam like this straight away, right? And I stand on here, bend like this, it's not so.
Yes.
So in this case, the top part here is compression, the bottom part is in tension. You see it's the opposite. Yeah. This is important because if we want to reinforce the beam, you know what I'm trying to say to them. We know, okay, the beam, for instance, concrete is weak in tension, not in compression. So then we can add things to compensate for that. You know what I'm saying to you? If you know, yeah. Okay. Fine. Let's move on to the next one. Is any questions before I proceed? How are you finding this? Hey, here's my mouse. Are you guys good with this? You enjoying it? You learning something?
Huh?
Yes.
If that neutral axis wasn't in the middle, then how do you split how do you determine the stresses, the value of the stresses?
there is some formulation to do. You have to take ratios of triangles with the tool.
Okay.
Yeah,
Alright.
Mr. Brand. So there's like a, I could show you something, but yeah, it's like taking ratios, like like the height and the you're basically using similar triangles. If that makes sense.
Yes, I'm with you. All right, thank you.
Yeah. That kind of setup. Okay. Right. Let me just quickly. Just move this. Okay. So I want us to do exactly the same thing over here. I'm going to bring out something new. The question requires the same stuff. So this is our beam. Dr. Ntuli, what could this be? We've got two supports with some loading and there's something in the middle. In reality, this could be anything. This could be a carport. Maybe the 12 kilonewton is 1 kilonewton of what? Who knows? That could be the weight of the beam, maybe. And then the 12 kilonewton could be something put there. Anyway, so the first thing I want you guys to quickly work out a moment for me. Guys, know the procedure now, right? M equals stress times Z. All right. Now, I want that moment. And I can see this is probably, this is not steel anymore. But they want to steal one. But this looks really, yeah. So tell me the moment and I want to show you something as well. That's why I find the moment is of utmost importance.
I forgot how to do this thing.
Forgot.
Oh, this moment thing.
Yeah, that is why I gave that revision. Because I wanted people to make sure they do that. So your reactions up and down, or A or B, or whatever you want to call it. First condition of equilibrium, and then you do moments. You first find moments, and then, yeah. Let's move on, colleagues. What is it? All right, colleagues, what did we get? What did we get? Quasi, do you get it? Jason? Guys, get it, colleagues? Let's move on. The guys still there?
Yeah, we here struggling.
Struggling, I see. Okay. So I was hoping you're gonna get the answer right. But once you get the answer, what you realize, what I'm showing you here is you also have these nice formulas which they've designed, or it's coming basically from taking moments for both the cantilever and some supported beam with the UDL, because these are the most common variations or basic ones. So if you have a simply supported beam with a point load, you can simply find the maximum bending moment using the load times length divided by 4. If you have a UDL, you can use WL squared over 8. WL squared would be the UDL Newton per meter. Cantilever, it's simple. You can think about it. It's always at the end, which is your load times your distance, P times L. And for UDL, it's the W, it's your UDL times L squared divided by 2. So you have the short end you can use. I'm not sure this is no form sheet, but I highly recommend you remember these. It will make your life easy. So how these formulas work? It only works for, it doesn't work if the load is positioned away from the center. It doesn't work if the UDL is only a portion of the beam. It must be across the whole beam. And it must reflect exactly like this. So if you look at this particular question, we have exactly that. So what we do, we first find the moment of the load. We find the moment produced by the load, the moment produced by the UDL, and we simply add them up and get the full bending moment. I mean, I can show you how to do it. I probably should, right? Let me just keep this here. Let me just, yeah, let's just do the right way. Just I can help you guys. So over here, I'll prove to you. So this is going to be reaction A, reaction B. Okay. or A or B. We then take moments about B, right? So then RA will be a clockwise moment of RA times 5. Then we have our two loads. These will produce anti-clockwise moments. So for our 12, it will be simple, minus 12 times 2.5, which is half, minus. So then we look at our UDL. Our UDL is going to be 1 times 5. And that'll also be exactly in the center. And that's going to be 1 times 5 times 2.5, right? We equal that to 0. Then we must find our or A. You guys familiar with this? Yeah, so I don't know what my first reaction is. Did someone just work it out quickly?
Yeah, 8.5 kilonewton.
Sorry, how much?
8.5.
8.5 kilonewton, right? Once you have that, when you take bending moments, I think if you do know that the maximum bending moment will occur at the center here, so you have to look at I'll say bending moment at midspan. Okay, and that's going to be I'm assuming it's correct. So I don't know if you remember how to take bending moments. You have to start with all the loads basically to the left-hand side of the beam. That is why it's important to do that. But you're going to say it's 8.5 times 2.5. Remember we had midspan. And then we are going to add the 1 kilonewton times half that distance, which is 2.5. And then I keep on writing it like this. 1 times 2.5. But at the same time, that that's acting halfway. So it's going to be 2. It's going to be 2.5 divided by 2. So this here is the 4 spot. This is the 4 spot, and that is the distance. That's the 4 spot. That is the distance. I don't know if you guys still remember these things. And if you do that, I'm hoping you're going to get the answer in the book. And the answer in the book, from what I have here, what is it? Look, you should get 18.125. Or was it 18,000? We need to have a look at this here. So it's apparently it's 18,125 kilonewton meter. Not sure about this, but this is what the book has. Okay, so assuming we did this correctly, but the way they've done it, they've used these formulas, right? So this is your alternative. Your bending moment at midspan. The reason why you're finding at midspan, because that's where the maximum bending moment occurs. We have to design the beam at maximum. So we first do PL4 plus W squared over 8. In this case, our P was at standard load, which is 12 times 5 divided by 4, plus our W was 1 kilonewton. Our length is given as 5 squared, and then dividing that by 8. I'm not sure what answer you get over here. Let's check your answer over there. So I'll fetch my calculator.
That gives 18.125.
18.125 kilonewton, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, so it's 18.125. Yeah, if you do it first principle, you'd see. So it's 18.125, and that is your maximum bending moment. So you can actually check this out. I'm assuming we did everything right here. And then once you have that, go back here. M equals stress times Z, right? And our stress was given as 75 megapascals. So I want you guys to select the suitable section. So M 18.125 kilonewton. And my stress was 75 megapascals. Newton meter. Okay.
Like 240 times 10 to the power minus 6.
Sorry, Tatantuli.
I'm saying I got 240 times 10 to the power minus 6.
Meters cubed, no? Don't forget that. So based on that, you can go to your tables, no? Mr. Prime, Jason, are you guys there, Quasi? Nzu?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let me just confirm that value. You guys confirm? I see it's 241. 241.67. That's what I see in the book here.
I don't know.
241.67.
18.125.
241.
It's 241, yeah. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
41.67.
So then you go to your book, you check your tables. Yeah. And you go back to the parallel flange and you have a look. And I believe you can only choose one. The one closest to that.
Here's the table. Look at this table. I don't know it.
Yeah, you don't have the tables. It's at the back of the book. I'm just checking something quickly. Just check there. Please check.
Okay. So looking at what? 241.
Yep, that's correct. Did I post our last session? I don't think so. Eh? Colleagues, what's slow? What's happening? Is it the old age, huh?
So we're still looking at the x-axis. Oh, no,
Yes,
where is it?
yes. always bending downwards like that. Yeah. The reason why I don't want to just do it and give you the answers. The idea is that I just want to maybe find a better picture and see.
Was it mine's in the book? It stops at 235.
Oh man, can't be man.
Tell me.
Side view, not side view. I wanted like a 3D. I'm gonna show you why. I'm looking for an I-beam. Okay, that could work. Yeah, this can work. So again, the reason why I don't know if you guys can see this nice I-beam. And the reason why I'm using the x-axis because the load is going on here, and the beam bends across the x like this. If the load is going this way, we'd have to use the y. The load is going that way.
It's not
I'm just
showing.
explaining. Not showing,
I-
huh? I'll just stop sharing and doing it again. You'll see it. But I'm still waiting. Where's my share now? Where's my share go away? Sharing the wrong thing here. Okay, let's go back here. Teams. There we go. No whiteboard. Yeah. So if you're wondering why we're using the x-axis, because it's bending across the x-axis, not the y. So if there's a y, you'll be looking at loads coming from that side. But we're putting the load down so it bends downwards on the x. Yeah. If that makes any sense to you. Just in case you wanted to know why. There's questions for everything, eh? That question leads to another question. Okay, so colleagues, what did we get? I think we were long overdue here. Talking to the only one talking to me, yeah? I'm just gonna paste that table. Then we can see what we have.
I mean, please paste yours because the one that I have it only stops at 235.
I don't know, it's a bit concerning. Anyway, so let's see the table. And I did put up the steel tables, I believe, on the Google Classroom. And yeah, so if you have a look at this, we got 241. And looking at the ZE, I'm remembering what these values were. This is called the radius of gyration. This II1 and ZPL is for plastic. That's another, this is in the elastic region, that's a plastic. But anyway, we're looking at ZE. We got 241. No. Yes. Yes. But the one I believe is a lighter one. The 305 by 1 and 2 by 25. Yeah. Is everyone happy with that? Should I zoom in? Can you guys see? You guys see it?
Yes.
So we choose that one. Other colleagues, are we also happy? You guys are not saying anything. And then I will go back to the question. And then it says, after selecting the section, calculate the actual bending stress brought about owing to the loading and including the mass of the beam. Okay. We're going to do that now. Yes.
Just go back to the question where you were, Nasser. I'm just a little bit confused about something.
No, it's fine.
Let's say after 75 megapascals, they say you must ignore the mass. But when you selected the beam, you use the mass. Was that a printing error or what? What's the story now?
Let me just look at this. Ignore the mass of the beam when selecting the lightest cross section. Okay, right. So they're saying the lightest cross section, which is, contradictory. It must be, eh?
Yes.
We step back here, assuming that they say ignore the mass of the beam.
And you could have
but
chosen 279 or so.
279, right? Yeah,
Yeah, the second
exactly.
one,
So I think, I think we must email the toy and say you must remove that from the textbook. And if you guys have this email, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, because that doesn't make any sense. Okay, so once we do that, we need to now recalculate everything, taking into consideration the beam we selected now. So now it's important now is that we need to include the weighted set, if you remember in the question now. So what do we do now? So we again find the total bending moment as before. Okay, so our Z is 286. That's our first. And we want our new stress, if you recall. Meters cubed ZE. And then we need to find the moment, and that's going to be the maximum bending moment at the center, which will be WL squared 8 plus WL squared 8. You understand shortly now, plus PL. So this over here, the weight, remember we assume the weight is uniformly distributed, am I correct? That's the weight of the beam. Are you with me? This is of the load, the UDL load. Are we all happy?
Yes.
And this is of the point load. So now the question, if you read the question, it's stated there, we must now include the mass of the beam in the calculation, right? So remember, the weight itself is a load. So now we have 2 UDL. So the weight of the beam, if you recall, it's given over there. It's at 24.8. You see that? But that's in kilogram. So we must times that guy by 9.81. So that will be 24.8 times 9.81. The length is, what is the length again? 5 squared. And you divide that by 8. And then we know the rest, eh? The rest was as before. I don't think anything else changed, eh? So we've got that one. I think we can just add now that other bending moment, isn't it? That 18 point, what is it? You remember this one? You can just add this now. Am I right? 24.8, 9.81, 5 squared. Let's see what answer we get here. We're just adding the weight now. This is the weight of the beam.
So where did you get the 24.8 from now?
So Dr. Thule, you selected that beam. It's over there.
Okay, 24.8.
Yeah. So now we're including the weight now. So let's quickly get a total bending moment. All right, what did we get?
It's 18891.
18891, right? Perfect. You see, it's not much, slight increase. And once we have this, simple plug and play to this formula. And I want my stress, colleagues. You give me my stress. As long as we don't exceed 75 megapascals, we are okay. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, the new guys. Saw this nice problem now. There was
66.052 megapixels.
how much?
66.
Oh, we're
Hmm.
fine.
What was our original one? Yeah, we're fine. 75.
If ever you want to build structures one day, this is how you're going to start. Yeah. 75, you're fine.
Hmm.
Okay, colleagues. We're at the end. And what I'd like to say is that I have another video for you, which I did last year. And it continues with bending. But I would like for you guys to do this one, and please post your answers in the group. And you guys didn't have a tendency just to ignore me when I ask these things, but anyway, well, not everyone obviously, but this one over here, you can do it now. Look at this, no? Simply supported beam, is it not? Do this one for me. Yeah, next, and I think the I section, yeah, this is a suitable I section. But obviously this is cylindrical, is it not, eh? But I guess I want the I section, so that's a bit, oh, it's a trailer. Oh, it's still, anyway. So do this one and see what you get. The maximum might be a bit different, eh? Who knows? So do this one and see. And then I will post one of my last year sessions, which will be similar to what we've done on the next part, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. Let me quickly open that up. Just going to show you the questions. Yeah, the questions again. Okay, here we are. So, yeah, these ones. So from here onwards, I have the video. So we have solved 5.13, I believe. I think I skipped 5.16. I'm not sure. I solved that one, and I solved this one over here. And then this one over here, you should do yourself. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so I'll send that video now on the group. So you can obviously do that in your own time. And all what's left for you to do is do the homework, and then do chapter module 6 after this. Not too difficult. If you understand bending, but obviously focus on the bending and squeezing module 6. Just stick in the realm of the past papers and you'll be fine. I would have liked to see you tomorrow, but I have N6 as well, and I'm seeing them. So yeah. But okay, colleagues, it's been fun. I hope not to see you next trimester, meaning that I expect you guys to pass. And maybe you can just send me a good message once you do. Because I believe you guys are quite strong compared to my largest group. But yeah, is there any questions before we depart?
Thanks. I think we'll shout if you're struggling somewhere.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Yeah. Otherwise, thank you, colleagues, and I'll see you guys around, eh? But I posted the other video already, so it's continuing it's the next piece of what should have been done. But yeah, it should sort you out. Yeah.
Must also look at centroids, ne? That's what you said.
Yeah, so it does look at centroids. It starts off with that, the second amount of area.
Okay.
But yeah, but I said I recommend brushing up on your revision first, And then the ones that I sent you must do.
Okay. Thank you.
Quasi, yes.
Also, I wanted to ask about the link, the one for last week about shafts.
Yeah, I'm gonna post. I'm gonna get that now. Yeah, I just realized. Do me a favor. Are you starting tonight, or can I send it tomorrow morning? Then you can remind me in the morning, so I can put up both basically.
Okay, so you can send it tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll send it tomorrow morning when I wake up.
Okay,
Just say
thank you.
both this module and the next one.
Yes, sir.
I have the other sessions as well. Just mute that. With flange coupling and so on. Okay. Okay, colleagues. Mr. Brandt, Mzu, Mr. Tuli, Mukrat, Jason, thank you guys.
Thank you also, sir.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, sir. All the best.
All the best. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.